Hello, Dennis.
Hello, Taras.
Dennis is known as the main expert on America and Donald Trump, whom he supported. For those unfamiliar, let's introduce him. That's why at such another critical moment that we have, I really want to hear his opinion, so to speak. Personally, I do. That's why he kindly agreed to come. So, Dennis, should we ask how the sound is so people can write about it, or what?
Yes, let the viewers write how well they can hear us, if they can see and hear me, Taras.
Yes, please write, because otherwise nothing will work out. If there are questions, Dennis, if you don't mind, at the end, we can...
No problem at all.
If people have any questions, because for a long time, people have always written to me saying that, so to speak, Dennis should be invited. And actually, there's been a lot about this.
Allow viewers to ask any questions. No topics are off limits.
Let's stay on topic. They say the sound is great and everything's fine. Where should we start? Dennis, I'd like to move away from the topic a bit, in a sense, to understand, so to speak, this situation that's happening to us. At first, honestly, it was a shock for me. I want to say when Donald Trump said that, nice guy, good guy, once again about Zelensky, and said, we'll give you tomahawks, come over. So to speak, he arrived in a relaxed state, in this positive mood of his. And so to speak, he didn't bring his support group with him, you know who I mean? All those powerful European leaders. And accordingly, when he arrived there, it turned out that they didn't give him anything. And as they say, they even demanded peace. What do you think this is connected to, and what has changed with Donald Trump? He first supported peace, then war, and now changed again when Zelensky arrived. Is this some sort of game, do you think?
First of all, I have to correct you. President Trump never said he would give tomahawks. That didn't happen, and the rhetoric didn't change. Actually, the attitude stayed the same. There was this public game that was aimed at Putin, and to some extent it worked. Actually, it did work. But in some ways, it was also aimed at Zelensky. This showed Trump's true attitude towards Zelensky. So what was it really like? While dealing with geopolitics, Trump makes a number of specific statements. Zelensky had already found his footing by then. That's it now. Now I'm going to defeat Putin. Let me point out, not Ukraine, but Zelensky personally. Now I'm going to defeat Putin. He arrives, and on the very same day, while he's flying on the plane, but in short, Trump is talking to Putin. Zelensky finds out about this on the plane, and he comes out already upset. Notice, no one meets him. Here, Yermak went to meet him. One of their own, not even Rubio, no one came. That's why well, you probably know there was a heated conversation. He brought special maps, and Trump said, keep your maps to yourself. Well, basically, it was kind of like an Oval Office 3.0, similar to the first Oval Office, just in a closed setting, just without cameras.
Do you think they actually argued with Trump yelling at him?
Yes, they argued.
Trump seemed to be yelling at him.
Well, not just seemed. Trump was yelling. Trump was raising his voice. And the main points were something like, I don't care about your Donbass. I need to end the war.
That's the right point. There's no other way to put it.
Basically.
So why did that happen? Why did he do that? Was it some kind of game? What do you think? What's your opinion?
Well, it was... you see, that's how Trump conducts all his politics, and everything with him goes in waves. There was a statement from Trump. Zelensky's approval was 4%. He's a dictator not holding elections. Was that mentioned? Yes. Now suddenly he's seen as a good guy. But you need to really understand Trump in order to correctly interpret his actions. So I'm urging people, your audience, to do the same thing I urge my own audience to do. Stay calm, everyone, and don't take headlines to heart immediately. Everything from tomahawks to surrender, there's no such thing. It's all politics, with the public game and the press, especially the global press, playing on people's nerves. So it's all calm. Trump knows what he's doing, and everything is moving toward peace through strength. But on the other hand, people think that, excuse me, they practically need to force Putin into submission. Putin is under pressure. But the side that is losing and is weaker will make more concessions. Ukraine is the victim and Putin is the aggressor, but realistically, we're losing the war and people are afraid. Last night says a lot. There have been and will be many nights like it. And basically, that's how things are. It's not good.
Friends, I have a small request. If you don't know Dennis and his work, he has an interesting channel. Now I'm going to... a nice link will appear here, a QR code. There will also definitely be a link to his channel in the description. If, as they say, someone isn't familiar, you're welcome to check it out. Please subscribe and get to know him. I've watched Dennis for years and I'm very satisfied. Everything he does is interesting and well done. I recommend him to everyone.
Thank you, Taras.
So let's move on. What do you think about this whole Budapest situation right now? Because honestly, yesterday when you started talking about how someone is getting nervous over there, I have to admit I was nervous too. I started watching it yesterday. This all began with a newspaper article. Then some unknown person made a comment. No one knows who they are. No one has ever heard of him or seen him. He started saying that nothing will happen, that there won't be any meeting, and so on. Then a Russian spoke out. And from Budapest, Hungary, their minister also spoke and said, don't believe any of this. We want to hold a meeting. As they say, it's just, well, you could say some kind of rumors. As you said, trust only official sources. So honestly, I got scared too. What do you think? Will this meeting even happen? Is it possible for it to happen in Budapest?
Between Trump,
Well, of course, between Putin and Trump.
there definitely will be. I won't say exactly as I think Budapest, 90% Budapest, I think in November. We need to explain to viewers why this happens with the press. The globalists behave similarly. At one time, they tried to make Musk and Trump quarrel prematurely. Then they said Trump is doing badly. There's this scandal. Remember when the Signal messenger had a mistake made by one of the employees? They twisted everything around. That's how the globalist press operates. The people should filter it too.
Well, yes, because I see that they seemed a bit shocked, as I understood, by the fact that Trump said he wouldn't give any missiles. They were silent there for a day or so. No one wrote anything at all. Then they started twisting things, distorting something. There's some source, you know how they like that. There's some unknown source in the White House. Maybe it's a cleaning lady, someone who mops the floors there. He told them everything, so now they know all about it. Somehow it's all quite, so to speak, unpleasant. And tell me, please, I'm curious, with all this Budapest situation, what is this meeting even leading to for them? Are they going to talk about Ukraine, or is it some kind of backroom deals of their own, something like that?
It's definitely about Ukraine, but Ukraine is part of a chain of bigger events. That is, Ukraine is even connected to the trade deal with China. The global agreement concerns absolutely everything. This includes Venezuela with Maduro and the oil in Venezuela. It's all one big chain. Ukraine is an important element in it, so to speak. Not because we're influential, but unfortunately, that's just how fate turned out. That's why, instead of being influential as an economic entity, we are, because of our position.
They're trying to work something out among themselves without us. Putin made an agreement.
Well, what's the definite plus? Right now, everything in Israel is coming to an end. The documents are already signed, but we know how Hamas is. That's why Trump needs to focus on Ukraine right now. This is the last war he needs to end.
God willing, he succeeds. But I always tell viewers, Trump is our only hope. Well, I mean, look at Putin, at Russia, and look at Zelensky, at all those who support him. By the way, about their so-called support for him, I saw today or maybe yesterday, someone from Poland was speaking, saying that if Putin does something, we'll bring him down, we'll arrest him, we'll do something else to him.
Yes.
From Poland. So it's clear who wants the war. They are saying directly that Putin shouldn't go anywhere or meet or negotiate with anyone about anything. As they say, let them keep fighting. We don't feel sorry for them. We've already written them off, and that's it.
But it wasn't the president speaking in Poland.
I know, the prime minister and I think the foreign minister.
And Prime Minister Tusk. Leftists linked to globalists all follow the same policy. They're war hawks who provoke conflict.
Tell me, I'm curious. I have a question. Well, for example, let's imagine hypothetically. I don't think they would just meet there for no reason. That Trump and Putin would agree on something there, on some issues and so on. Well, okay, Zelensky, he's strong, plus he's supported by all these leaders and so on, European ones. They'll tell him, or maybe he'll decide himself, I don't know, he'll make a statement and say, I accept these plans. Like these ones, give us those 12 points of ours, which include, first of all, giving back 100,000 300,000 million billions. That's nonsense. Like, for example, that Putin should turn himself in and go to court. He should also take Lavrov with him, preferably, and who else? Shoigu and all the others, Demon and so on.
Yeah.
It's just absurd. No one will actually do that. What's the point for Putin to even try? I think you follow too. They might not have any major breakthroughs there, but every day they're advancing somewhere, capturing something. You can check the Ukrainian map instead of Russia's version, which is biased. At least look at Deep State. He'll just say, I don't want to. Honestly, I don't see how you can force him.
You're absolutely right, Taras, in your thinking. And here the American team needs to go deeper. In short, to delve into the problem. Because all these plans that the Europeans will write, they will be exactly as you said. There are reparations for restoring Ukraine, which are mostly unrealistic. You shouldn't start with territories or reparations. You should start with the issues related to Putin's demands. Most are actually good for Ukraine's democracy, even if that sounds scary. I'll be honest about it. Article 10 of Ukraine's constitution gives Russian special status. This issue needs final resolution. Ukrainian is the only state language, but Russian is permitted everywhere without restrictions. Anyone attempting this faces a criminal charge. That's final. We've moved on from this. Next, NATO. As a neutral country, we're revising the constitution to remove the path to NATO. For the next 30 or 40 years, we won't be in NATO. Period. This issue is closed. Freedom of religion. The church is allowed, but if agents of Russian special services are proven to be there, they will be prosecuted. Period. We've put the dots over the I's, and now we can move forward. If Zelensky had come to Trump with such a conversation and then had a talk with Putin, things would have turned out differently, and the chances for a compromise would have been higher. But if you keep repeating like a parrot, no Russian language, even though the entire president's office speaks Russian, his family, and he himself speaks Russian at home, all these religion stories and shouting to NATO won't change anything. Some things benefit Ukraine, but he can't act because of globalists like the United States Agency for International Development. Ukraine has been fed this nonsense for decades, so how can you refuse it now? They have a bunch of activists like Sternenko, Pritula, they have television channels, all the media outlets. And how is Zelensky supposed to... He put himself in that very zugzwang. He doesn't know what to do. Right now, he has only one goal, to stay in power for one more month. Now he just needs to make it through October. Next, the goal is to stay in power through October. That's how he lives, unable to escape this situation the way he wants. He'll lose his already low approval rating, but he thinks otherwise.
Do you really think he believes he has an approval rating?
Yes, I know this for a fact. He thinks he has a very high approval rating.
Sorry, Comrade Stalin didn't know about that. Is his situation the same or something? I don't understand.
Yes, something like that. He believed it.
I don't know who supports him or those people. I'm not familiar with them. Maybe I'm just not around the right people. I don't know anyone in the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center or the government. Maybe they really support him there.
There is a segment of the population. I call them out directly. I don't like talking about fellow citizens this way, but we must be honest. These are the truly crazy ones. Take Boneftik, for example. It gets ridiculous. These uneducated people aren't involved and don't want to understand.
Well, you could say you're not into it either, Dennis. You're a Boneftik too.
That's how it turns out.
You didn't leave either when that thing started on the 20th or whatever.
I left in fall 2022.
You didn't run away on the first day like the deputies did. Our beloved deputies, the ones who ran away and then they started bringing them back from somewhere from those faraway places.
Well, of course, Kolya Tishchenko went to Zakarpattia. The deputies scattered. No one knew what to do. But we stayed in Kiev and nothing happened.
He signed up for the Territorial Defense Forces there.
Yes, remotely.
All right. God be with them, as they say. So I wanted to ask something else about all of this in general. Well, so to speak, if you really dig deep for myself, you see all the time what you said, those questions, I actually agree with them here as well. I think that Zelensky could have already passed some law, canceled these language discriminations, and without any of this, just say, there, basically. But I've read their peace plans many times. What you said about the Russian language, resolving all these issues with the church, honestly, I think that not a single life is worth some Russian language or any of those things, whoever says what they pray for, what they believe in, and so on. Let everyone pray and so on. But you have to understand, for me, the situation is like this. Now they're discussing addressing fundamental issues, or the root cause, as they call it. Lavrov spoke there, and I think Putin also said this. They talk about the root cause. Well, as for me, the root cause was back in 2014. I remember 2011 to 2013 when we had great relations with the Russian Federation. Look, I remember in Odessa, especially in the city center, there were, I think, more Russian cars than our Ukrainian ones. They all vacationed here in summer, By 2014, only a few remained. Then they disappeared completely. I mean, Russians, when this war started, so basically they attacked us back then. Well, when they took Crimea and attacked Donbass. So how can you build, I honestly don't understand this question. How do we build a relationship with them? Because, everything was fine before that. So why the hell did they get involved? Now, let's say, okay, I kind of understand all these things for myself and so on. Well, although I also think it's wrong to kill anyone and war is all terrible, but now at least it's somewhat understandable. But they actually started the war. We didn't attack any of their regions, we didn't take Leningrad or anything like that.
I've always said this, you understand. If Putin has such idiotic ideas and a lot of money, he should finance political influence to solve even those issues I described, if he really needs them. He supposedly gave Medvedchuk $5 billion, which Medvedchuk probably just stole. Or maybe he just doesn't have enough talent. Well, you see, this whole Russian world, it's dead in Ukraine, and there's never any chance for it. That's why I don't know, you seem to sympathize with Dimitruk. For instance, I say he's the brightest.
Dimitruk is a good person with his own views, and that's just how he is.
That's what I'm saying.
He didn't beat anyone, didn't kill, didn't steal. He even, poor guy, suffered there, excuse me.
Well, he didn't steal. That's debatable.
I'm not sure about that since it hasn't been proven.
For me, it's about ideology and politics. I'm ready to take on people like Dimitruk on stream. Ideologically, no problem. They're so afraid that he's now fighting extradition in a London court. So they're the ones fueling it themselves. That's what people shouldn't overlook. They're boosting his ratings and everything else. About Putin, because you see, you have to dig very deep and far. Putin was once told there would be no NATO expansion eastward, which he remembered. He was later denied NATO entry. It's like Zelensky's attitude toward Putin. You didn't accept me, I'll show you. All of this was boiling inside him, so he pushed forward with the KGB. I'm promoting these theses not because Putin wants me to. I'm against Putin and the Russian world. Today, over half of Ukraine's population speaks Russian. That's a fact. Today, it exists. Does the Russian church exist? It does. Are we in NATO? Well, no, we're not in NATO. Let's just settle this and close the topic forever. And let's focus on the economy, on development. Let's make Ukraine great without war, without the Russian world.
Honestly, I'm afraid that even if we do all this, they'll still be there. United States Agency for International Development, not United States Agency for International Development. I have a negative attitude toward this. Thank you very much to Donald Trump. In all my videos, I say he shut down that operation since it only seemed to try to destroy Ukraine. As far as I know, he shut it down completely, right?
Yeah, he completely shut it down.
Good for him. I have to say, one of his first decisions, I remember, was related to Ukraine. That was definitely a great move on his part. And so to speak, I would personally draw a distinction between the Russian world in general and Putin's world, because the Russian world is something related to their own thing. It seems to me that this whole idea of theirs is built, in general, it all comes from Putin, so to speak. The Russian world is totally different, I think, like a balalaika or something. I'm not sure what it is.
Everyone probably means something different by it.
I don't even know. It's hard for me to talk about it. But something common in like culture, their faith, some national issues. That's what I would call the Russian world. That's probably Putin's world. What etiology do they even have? Honestly, I can't understand it myself. What's this absurdity about some kind of history, about something? I've never understood it myself, and I still don't. What are these historical references? If you really think about it, then all of Europe would have to be redrawn, reshaped, and become Russia.
Putin's lessons are clearly a joke.
He's an amateur historian, of course, that's for sure. But because of this problem that there's actually no democracy, all of this happened. If you ask me if there had been democracy, if they had some kind of elections, whether it was Putin or someone else like Vasha, it wouldn't matter. Then they wouldn't have been able to strengthen themselves to such an extent that they'd go to war with someone. That's the problem.
That's a long story. Europe financed them by buying their energy resources and supporting the situation. That was the KGB's plan. But how could they let all of this slip and allow it to happen? That's a big question.
And how can we allow this? I don't even want to say it. The Russian world, Putin's world, to come back again, even if theoretically they sign something now. God willing, I crossed myself, whether it's peace or a truce, I don't care what it's called. The main thing is that people stay alive. How do we prevent another attack? Honestly, I don't get it.
So the main thing we need to do is what I already said. Get rid of these issues that are just being covered up, like putting a band-aid on instead of actually healing them. That's the first thing. Next is the economy. And actually, the security guarantee that everyone talks about so much, there's really only one. It's Ukraine's success. It's important to make the economy free, to fuel it with American money, American companies, and to integrate Ukraine into the global economy so that many countries are in some way dependent on Ukraine, just like America is now dependent on China, unfortunately. That's why it can't be fully strangled. Europe relies on China and can't sanction it, and India depends on energy resources. Once integrated, war will no longer be profitable. When there are a lot of American companies here, all of this will be lobbied at the highest level to prevent it. Actually, under Biden, all this was approved in Switzerland, giving Putin an unofficial green light. Well, go ahead, take Ukraine. You see, it was a big plan, and that's why they were shaping all of this out of Ukraine. In reality, this gang and the KGB are all the same thing. It's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. They worked toward this for a long time, which eventually led to war.
Please subscribe to Dennis's channel using the link in the description or on the screen. Also, Dennis always asks, please like the stream. It helps boost it and attract more viewers. I've noticed that too. I rarely stream, but when I do, people enjoy them. Please support Dennis and me. We're discussing simple, understandable topics. Give us a like. It's our big request. And of course, to subscribe to the channel, because Dennis, I repeat, really shares some very interesting things. We're about to move on to more interesting topics, so let's finish this segment on Zelensky. How could they make him do it? What's your view? Because they say, sorry, let me say, there are some kind of Mindich tapes, they're talking about something like that. I just know who's talking about it, that person. And so to speak, he's a source, let's say, in my opinion, a bit questionable. I won't name him since he's already being persecuted. He's being persecuted. I just know where this came from, so to speak. He often had a habit of spreading rumors. They supposedly have some kind of compromising material on Zelensky, and with that, they'll pressure him and force him to sign something. What do you think? Is it possible?
Compromising material is a last resort. Look, there is compromising material, and there's a lot of it. That's the last resort. Many, including my viewers, are waiting for Zelensky to be removed. That's it. He's out of power. And what happens next? We need to think about that.
Well, at least people will breathe a sigh of relief.
But who leads? Someone must take charge. Who will come to power?
Well, that guy, what's his name? Kolivan, let him be there. Temporarily? Well, like it was when Yanukovych fled.
No, it doesn't work like that. Do you mean the head of the Verkhovna Rada?
Well, yeah.
That's Zelensky's man, Stefanchuk. He'll crap his pants. And then this kind of thing will start.
Well, I don't know, something like that.
I'm for that too, but I'm telling you how Americans think. That's why compromise is the last resort. They strip away power with it layer by layer. Putin insists that Zelensky must leave power in Ukraine, which means holding elections. Zelensky will be pressured to hold elections. This is certain. There might be a ceasefire option. During the ceasefire, you hold elections and Putin doesn't bomb.
So he'll just elect himself and that's it.
Well, we can say that, but without elections, he's clearly in power. With elections, it's not so certain.
There are chances, I agree. Maybe someone will shout, maybe someone will come out. Again, that's a question. Well, all right, please tell me, there's one question I'm really interested in. This agreement about minerals, about, so to speak, the extraction of these rare earth metals. They were really pushing it hard over there, really pushing it. Then Zelensky, I remember, didn't sign something. There was this scandal in the White House. Then he ended up signing it anyway, sort of. Everyone said our patriots praised his bravery for refusing, but I pointed out he signed it later. What are you talking about?
Sviridenko signed it, not him. That's important.
Well, one of them, as they say, it's the same as a power of attorney. You know, when I worked as a lawyer, they gave me a power of attorney so I could sign something on someone's behalf.
Well, let's say Ukraine signed it.
The person, well, he's actually the main one, not Sviridenko. Who is she anyway? Basically, that's fine. Do you still consider this agreement, since I spoke with a citizen of your country? He sees this as a major benefit for Ukraine, along with the entire agreement. That like America will somehow invest something there and so on. And as you said, some kind of cooperation. What's your opinion?
Despite everything, even though I opposed Zelensky, I supported the signing of this agreement because it's really a big advantage for Ukraine. Being a trading partner of the United States, having such a global joint project together, that's great. That's great. This is exactly the kind of integration I was just telling you about. It was definitely the right choice. Another thing is that those whisperers around Zelensky, who are always whispering in his ear, told him that if he signs now in return, they will give missiles based on future production and will bomb Putin. That was the story. They believed in it. That didn't happen. But by the way, I want to tell you, the paperwork is actually being done. Economically, things are progressing slowly, but everything will work out after the war. Right now, let's say everything is being prepared in the back office. But the people who get excited about this, Those are, let's say, the same old Soviets, in my opinion. And they're literally giving away all the resources. And these resources don't belong to you, Taras, or to me, or to any of those people who are talking about it. They belong to no one.
It's like the land. As they say, they'll give away our land.
Yeah, but how? Will they take it away in bags, or how do they imagine it?
The Germans took it, right? Now they'll bring it to America.
Now they'll fly to America.
The plane will arrive and they'll pack it in cellophane.
The deal is being discussed with Russia. You probably saw it.
Well, yes.
Even the Russians aren't shouting anything, even though they were the first. They're the same. It's all one people, as they say. These are people who already call Americans Pindosi. So,
well, that's fine. Look, here's what I wanted to ask. I noticed an interesting statistic before the signing of this agreement about these minerals and everything else. There was a clear trend on X, the social network owned by a very famous person, where people were clearly targeting the territorial recruitment and social support center and all the things happening there. As soon as this agreement was signed, X quieted down again. Now they're back to discussing their own issues, some American problems. Honestly, they've kind of forgotten about this.
no, you're trying to connect it like that, but actually,
It just seemed that way.
there was an escalation in X after the Oval Office. After the Oval Office.
And then he signed, and that's it, right?
No, he signed and changed his rhetoric. So when he went, I think it was in Paris. Remember, they had not in Paris, in Rome. They put 2 chairs for them in the Vatican and they were talking. If Zelensky had actually listened to my broadcasts instead of just getting annoyed, things would have worked out for him. He listened to others. Seriously, how foolish do you have to be to fight with Trump and start that scandal? Why not just act normal from the beginning?
So I think there's no way back for Zelensky anymore.
Yeah, of course not. No, definitely, 100%.
Where could he go back to? Everything will end badly. We understand that. So what else did I want to ask? Here's something interesting. You know, it's clear that looking for supporters somewhere outside our people, our community, so to speak, if our own stay silent, why is it that no one in America talks about all of this, in your opinion, about this whole Russification, all this stuff that's happening here? Well, it's just that our grandfathers fought in that war, which was back then World War II, or as it's called here, the Great Patriotic War. As my viewers often tell me, I say it wrong. The point is, they fought, but no one was hunting people down like dogs. Well, any war, look at any war that has happened recently in the East, in the Middle East, right? Nowhere is there anything like that. These are crimes against humanity that will eventually be recognized in Ukraine, and sadly, they continue. And for some reason, the United States is silent about this. Why do you think that is? I'm not asking for defense, just repeating myself out of curiosity.
Let's consider another angle. Why discuss it? In X, this is published and moderately discussed in the American segment without exaggeration. I'm there, I know, I follow it, but why America? I mean, the Ukrainian people are sitting there watching all this, approving it, and doing nothing. I'm not saying to go out to the Maidans. All the measurements are being taken. There's no critical sort of... someone sits on their couch saying we need another 91 or that they can't give in. So they'll stay hidden and let others fight. So why should the Americans be worried? You see, that's the point. Saving a drowning man is the job of the drowning man himself. Americans see Milei making reforms in Argentina with good relations and cooperation. Here they see corrupt leaders in charge and people accepting it. So does Trump need this the most? That's why Trump responds, I don't care about that Donbass. I need to end the war, get out and tell my voters. I promised I ended the war. But Trump didn't promise us or the citizens of Ukraine anything. Trump didn't promise anything, and neither did the president of Poland. And Orban didn't promise anyone anything, but everyone owes our people.
Zelensky promised our people. That's where we need to start.
Of course, he promised, I will end the war. I recently posted this on my stream. He said, if I don't end it, another person should come. He was even out of breath.
Obviously. Sorry for interrupting.
Questions for Zelensky. Citizens of Ukraine have no right to ask questions to President Trump. That's a matter for Americans. Only to Zelensky. Only then can you watch or do anything else.
So, as I understand it, right now, it's not beneficial for them from their point of view to even raise the issue with these, besides all these specifications and everything else, and the closed borders and someone being shot somewhere at this border, there's always some kind of horror happening there. So to put it this way, it's simply not beneficial for them to bring up this issue right now, based on their position of wanting to negotiate and end the war. That's how I understand it.
That's part of it. But the main point is, I'm telling you how it is. In Trump's team, they use polls. They look at the mood of society. So if it were critical, there would be a different response from the United States. Basically, a huge percentage of people can easily live with this. We don't need it since hidden measurements show no critical situation. That's how it works.
I see. Thank you. I'm very interested too. You were right. We discussed the United States Agency for International Development. So there is a certain wing, globalists, Soros supporters, it doesn't matter what you call them, basically supporters of war. That's easier for me to call them. And they, so to speak, they have quite a serious lobby in Ukraine in the form of some public figures, let's call them that, some bloggers, who knows who else, people who have latched onto power around the government and so on. We know all of them there. I don't see any point in listing them all. It would take too long. So look, they all support this. Then I have a question. Why, for example, does Donald Trump's party not support you? I didn't say for nothing that I've been watching your videos for many years now and so on. I remember your position when everyone was saying that Donald Trump wouldn't win. They were spouting nonsense in Ukrainian and Russian. Then unexpectedly he wins. Well, you were right. You supported him not because he would win or lose. It's just that, as I understand it, you like this whole idea.
Ideologically, of course.
And why don't they support people like you? That's a mystery to me, honestly.
There are no elections, Taras. You only find out who supports whom during elections. There's no electoral process, no elections.
Do you think it's difficult for them to somehow...
That's not how it works now. Elections, politics, and then games begin. The upcoming elections are one context. The next ones are a different context. Here, they plan decades ahead.
It's different here, just get through the day and night.
Yes, the approaches and everything else are completely different. About the United States Agency for International Development, you said there are some activists there. The United States Agency for International Development, so to speak, in quotes, is the deep state. That's when they control part of the intelligence agencies. That's when they have full control over the media. That's when they're everywhere. Their hands are in everything. So it's a state within a state, an unnamed deep state. Vasya Petrov handles everything there. He's in charge. No, it just spread that way, like a web.
And tell me, please, I'm actually curious. The viewers asked me to ask, so to speak, what you have there. If you know about America, so to speak. You have to pay $1,000 to stay in the United States under the Uniting for Ukraine program. I'm a bit far from America. Is it true that people who came because of the war have to pay this?
Yes, I read about it.
Why is that? What's the reason? I don't understand. Why?
I don't know. You see, the government apparatus is also bloated here, and you know Trump's approach when it comes to immigration and everything else. They've introduced all sorts of fees and annual payments for everyone dealing with immigration matters everywhere. Probably to cover expenses or maybe to discourage people from staying.
If you pay, do you have to leave? Or how does that work?
I heard they pay $1,000 in America if you leave after Uniting for Ukraine.
Yeah, I think so. I checked.
Yeah, they pay something. It's a thing that works all over the world now. It's being used. Yeah.
The only country that disposes of its people, except Ukraine.
Exactly.
That's right. Everyone seems to want people to visit their country.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of an indicator. If you can pay this money, it means you have a job somewhere, you're helping the United States in some way, you're useful here. That logic also makes sense.
Sorry, I've been coughing. I was sick, just so you know. Okay, I get it. Go on, keep watching. I was interested. Let's wrap these up. I wanted to talk to you. When you invited me to your channel, it was really nice. We discussed this issue a little bit briefly, so to speak, to talk about weapons legalization and so on. And then you made a stream and said that people don't understand. Well, since they don't understand, I'll explain. Well, I'd like to hear your position. I mean, let me explain for the viewers. We're talking about permits for firearms, right? For citizens, not for cops or judges.
Yes, for citizens. Actually, I support both concealed and open carry.
Can you explain the difference and why you support it?
Well, concealed carry, Florida recently allowed it. So how did people typically do it? If you're wearing pants, you can attach a holster to your leg with a pistol or hang something on your belt, under your t-shirt, or on your waist, allowing you to conceal a weapon. Now that's been removed, and now the public supermarket chain allows people to enter the supermarket with weapons, that is openly. So you have a pistol or rifle hanging there, and it's fine.
In Texas or somewhere like that.
In Texas, it's the same. Let's approach it differently and have opponents present their arguments. They could type it in the chat, or you could say it.
I can do it, I prepared.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I prepared and read about it. Look, we're talking about Ukraine, America. I think simply America, that's acceptable in America and so on. Because since the Wild West days, everyone there carries weapons. And somehow there's probably more understanding there than we have about what it really is. Well, questions. Look, I've read about it. About 10 million Ukrainians may have had mental health disorders. Of those, 4 million were moderate or severe. This is because of the war. Well, in our country, in Ukraine, I read about it today. Well, you agree with me, don't you? I think that, so to speak, this war hasn't passed people by. Someone was sitting at home, hiding somewhere, even from the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, not from him, even without the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, because there will be some woman. These explosions, this nightmare, especially if you take Kiev, I wouldn't say everything is peaceful there. They bomb there too and destroy houses. It's terrible. Some cities like Chernihiv are even closer. People have said it's a nightmare there. Naturally, something affects people mentally. I don't mean to offend anyone. So, is it even possible to give weapons to such people?
We immediately run into the very first myth. Has anyone ever, anywhere in America, given a mentally ill person a weapon?
Well, I have one big but here. Have you ever taken a driving test in Ukraine?
Of course.
Remember how people bought those certificates and everything there?
That's perfect. That's just how I wanted you to think about it.
I'm reasoning like people do.
Is the issue with holding weapons or a corrupt system?
Well, so to speak, allowing weapons to be distributed in a corrupt, rotten system would be a disaster. Well, that's my opinion.
If we view it differently and don't allow it in a corrupt system, although the corrupt, rotten system will take control of this issue in its own interest, so they don't get shot themselves. First, in America, it's not due to the Wild West. The Constitution guarantees the sacred right to bear arms, the right to armed rebellion against the authorities. And that's the only reason why it won't be allowed in Ukraine? They know nothing like that will happen. They're not worried about mentally ill people, someone snapping, or civil conflict. They know that if they acted today as they do now, the entire Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center would have been destroyed. You understand? That's the point. But when you said yourself that I was in Kiev, but at the beginning, cars would pull up and anyone could take a rifle, to defend when their own asses were in danger too. Excuse my language. That's how it works. That's how it works. But when things get serious, if it were like I said, the war wouldn't have happened. It's not like that in Switzerland, but there it's allowed to keep it at home in a safe. You have to store it in a safe. That's how it should work. The whole reserve should be armed and trained to shoot. Then where would Putin even go? If they enter, they'll be shot immediately. No one would attack such a country. But of course, this requires reforms. But most importantly, this government is always under threat. You can't behave like Zelensky, Poroshenko, or any of them. That's the main point. But they want to be kings.
That's understandable. Yes, being in power changes things. I couldn't find 2024 data. They say there are no statistics. In America, in 2023, there were 22,830 murders, specifically with firearms. So when they're used, I don't know. I read it online, but you would know if it's accurate. That's what keeps coming up. So my logic is that without firearms, there would likely be fewer murders.
The United States population is 350 million. We can't use just absolute numbers. We must divide by the number of residents.
No, I get it. There, per 100,000, it's about 6 people.
Let me tell you, Tikhanovsky, the Belarusian opposition figure, do you know him?
Of course, he's a clown.
He recently came to America and said, I got my driver's license in 15 minutes for $50. It was simple. I confirm everything. It's like that here. Russian people come into the comments and say, and raise the statistics. So that's why there are so many accidents in the United States, the highest number in the world. But there's a huge country, physically a huge number of roads, 2 cars per family, and all of that together creates the statistics. So that's why, did you say 20,000?
Yes.
If there were no weapons, criminals would have shot 100,000 people. Do you understand?
So you're saying criminals have weapons regardless? They have weapons anyway.
Well, bought on the black market, of course, but they're very reluctant to get into a shootout in those states where everyone has one.
Is it even possible to buy one? If it's illegal, is it hard to do, or are you unsure?
I don't deal with that kind of stuff.
No, I understand. I'm not asking you to sell me anything. I'm just curious about how, in Ukraine, you can get drugs. Well, let's be honest. Yeah, if you really want to, I guess.
Yeah, but who usually does this?
Buying a weapon legally used to be really hard in Ukraine. I'm not sure how it is now.
That's all controlled by the special services.
Those same people would set you up in the chat if you wanted to buy, then needed statistics for solved cases.
As I mentioned, I said the security service of Ukraine controlled everything.
I know who did it, yes.
What drugs and all that. Here it's the black Latinos, and that's how it is. Well, as I see it, probably not very difficult. We can't say that there's no mafia in America. There is.
All right, no, of course, it's a huge country. How could there be no mafia there? It's everywhere, I think, in any country, just to different degrees. Somewhere they're bolder, somewhere like here, somewhere even better. Look, there's something else I wanted to talk about. An example from my own life, so to speak, about this firearm issue. Look, here's what happened. I have a relative, and he got into a conflict with someone. I showed this on YouTube a while back. They argued over a cat. He really loves cats. It's his weakness. I told him he shouldn't love them so much. That idiot comes up and punches the cat. I won't show that here. The cat started having some kind of convulsions or something. Seriously, what an idiot. Then they start arguing with him. One word leads to another, and that guy tries to get into the car. He bought himself a journalist's identification, and with that, he got this weapon, a traumatic one. Not a combat weapon like the police have, but a traumatic one. He shot my relative twice in the back as he ran away, doing it intentionally with no threat present. If he'd had a combat weapon, he would have just shot and killed my relative, but at least this way he survived.
I'm not sure how it would have been. The worst part is analyzing individual cases.
No, I'm just telling you from my own life.
He may have known everyone could have one, and your relative might have had a weapon and drawn first, leading to the shooting. But that's the point. Nobody does that with registered weapons.
But he did it with a registered weapon.
Another myth is that everyone will shoot each other. If you use a registered weapon, you'll go to jail.
That's how he shot. He had a registered weapon.
I'll say it again. We're going through this because it's not officially allowed. Your relative doesn't have it. Second, it's Ukraine where nothing works. Third, it's still a rubber bullet gun. It still registers differently in your mind. Will there be cases like the ones you're describing? Of course there will be, Taras. Of course there will.
There are always individual cases everywhere. To sum up, there's a good Ukrainian word for that, our conversation. That's what I wanted to understand. Do you think this will act as a kind of safety mechanism if people have weapons? First of all, from, let's say, some attacks or offensives, I mean military ones against us primarily. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
The second question is related. As you mentioned, in America, there's no such lawlessness, while employees at the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center stand armed with rifles, and others are unarmed.
This is protection against external aggression, specifically, like from Russia. That's the first thing. Second, when criminals know you have a weapon, they behave differently. Third, the authorities are always on edge and think about what they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I just wanted to hear your whole thought, how you see all of this in general. Got it. Thank you. Next, I would like to talk to you about some reforms. There's Argentina. You're the only person I've heard mention Javier Milei. He's Argentina's president, right?
President.
Not a prime minister. Some countries have prime ministers, others have presidents. The president of Argentina is in Argentina. I'll just explain for the viewers. There was, and I don't know how it is now, a very bad economic situation, even though the country, so to speak, potentially it's actually a very good country, and they got a new president. And I would like you, Dennis, to tell us a little bit, so to speak, for the viewers, so they understand that we actually have some other chance and an opportunity not to choose, so to speak, pro-Russian candidates, or those, I don't know, pro-Soros or whatever you want to call them. So we actually have some other path. By the way, speaking of Trump, the path that Donald Trump is showing us, right? I mean, he's showing us some kind of third way.
Yes, not specifically for Ukraine in general.
For the world, not for Ukraine, obviously. And please tell us about Javier Milei and about Argentina. It's interesting.
Well, Argentina is in a dire state. It's still in such an economic mess that Ukraine couldn't even dream of. Do you know how many times Argentina has defaulted recently? A century ago, it was among the top 5 global economies and widely respected. When the leftists took power, they ruined everything immediately. Capitalist libertarian reforms. And Milei, as I already said, I won't repeat that word, but where does he get Argentina's economy from? In the case of Ukraine, things will be much better. It's the geographical location, and in general, it's a new country. And since we're in Europe, all of this helps. About about why the third way. You mentioned two ways: the so-called Russian world, or pro-Russian, as you said,
Putin's, I would say.
and Soros's. So what is the pro-Russian world? It will be the same dishonest courts, it's state capitalism, and the government will still be run by the officials who are currently in power. It's like they lease everything. 3,500 state enterprises, all natural resources, and the financial system will be under their control. What is the Soros world? They are the same bureaucrats, just a bit more moderate, managing the same resources. And Soros gives them some money, like the Ministry of Internal Affairs gets a few billion euros annually. They keep this whole dead system on life support because at that moment, Soros's people will come in and slowly grab whatever assets they can. That's the first thing. The second thing is they appoint people like Seryoja Leshchenko to Ukrzaliznitsia's board, where they'll also lobby for their interests. Ultimately, this causes major corruption. That's why the third way is capitalism and libertarian reforms. Only libertarianism can save Ukraine. Centrism and other approaches won't work. Things are too bad now. Like Argentina, nothing else will help. It's the same in Ukraine, but the Argentinians are more internally free. Argentina doesn't have issues with freedom of speech or security services interfering in politics, unlike Ukraine, where everything follows the Russian model. As long as that continues, nothing good will happen. Do you know the Russian businessman Oleg Tinkov? He said this about Russia. As long as the KGB is here, I told my children, even if I die, under no circumstances, even with 1,000% annual return, never invest in Russia as long as the KGB is there. He said it briefly, but very clearly. It's the same thing when your security service can do anything. Getting into business or politics is just like in Russia. It never ends well.
Is he implementing any reforms now? I believe he wanted to eliminate the national currency in Ukraine, which could benefit us too. For example, there's a country called Montenegro. I think you've heard of it. They don't have their own national currency. They're not in the European Union, but they use the euro. Maybe we should try similar reforms too. I like the idea. At least, I mean, we get why they keep the hryvnia, get a tranche, manipulate interest rates, pay pensions, and then steal it.
Of course.
Most adults already know about these schemes. So to put it this way, has he had any success at all? Has anything changed in Argentina?
The very first success, a colossal success, is that he cut the government staff in half, closed ministries, and reduced government spending and the budget. That is the Argentine budget. The treasury is now in the black and is replenished monthly. Previously, it was deeply in the red, like Ukraine's. So they took out loans to cover the deficit. And this artificial respiration was being done.
They kept giving money over and over in a cycle.
Yes, money for debts. Give money, pay off debts. 30,000 was the annual inflation. 30,000 a year. That is 20,000%.
That money there, I mean, I watched and read about Argentina.
It's now down to 30% from 20,000%. Why is everything going pretty well, but not quite the way I or other libertarians or reformers or even Milei himself would like? He doesn't have a majority in parliament. He was able to push through some decisions by presidential decree. He just wrote a decree kind of within the bureaucracy. He then faces resistance with many protests in Argentina and people coming out. Soros also finances all of this. Ukraine will face the same if we ever have such reforms or attempts. And he pushes through all of this and somehow manages to act. Parliamentary midterm elections will be held in Argentina on October 26th. Let's see how people vote.
And what about the people? Do they support him? What do you think? Or do you...
Some people support him, some don't. About 30% are strongly against him, 50% support him, and 20% are kind of undecided, neither here nor there. In reality, Argentina is receiving massive investments, including from America. Market reforms are being carried out everywhere. Privatization is happening, so...
There are reforms happening there. He does what he can within his limits, within his competence. He can't, like Zelensky, just say, I'm here.
Yes, the Czar, the parliament.
I'll sign a decree. Why do you need a parliament? Just a decree and that's it. That's how I decided. A royal decree, you know? Well, the Tsar is in Russia. That's far from us. So it turns out, as I look at my own, so to speak, at my work, there was a time long ago when I needed to. Now I'm surprised that, for example, we still have a city prosecutor's office in Crimea. There are some in Donetsk. There's some airport. Some people you can't really figure out who they are, some organizations. They've taken so much land from us, yet administrations remain. A female deputy even showed they're still allocating money to Mariupol and elsewhere. It's pure absurdity. Plus, these people have salaries and live abroad, like this mayor.
And Serhiy Haidai is the governor of Luhansk, a region we've not controlled for a long time.
Well, yes, that's also the case. Well, okay, Luhansk region, that's one thing, but Crimea.
They are already holding tenders on paper there. They are holding tenders on paper there. You understand?
They're buying trolley buses there?
Yes, stadiums, trolley buses, everything.
This is insane. You don't have to be a libertarian, just a reasonable person, to get rid of them all at once. The Luhansk police, some kind of prosecutor's office, some who knows what, some land resources, some non-existent city council. Then they'll come back and you'll have to hire them all again. God, I'm all for it. It's just that some people don't really get it. Even like you and me, in the sense that for some reason everyone thinks that if I didn't support Zelensky in something, then for some reason I must automatically support Putin, or the other way around. So we have two options. Either we sit here and praise Putin, like when you go to those shows with Shelest, right? Well, I'm not talking about him specifically, but about those people he invites there. There are a lot of those Putin fans and so on. Or so to speak, the other path is to glorify lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender values. All those people who knows who they are, those kinds of people who Leshchenko, the one you mentioned, there's something there. So it turns out that we're bad for them, and actually I'm bad too, and we're also bad for the others. It's like, nobody supports us.
Putin being bad doesn't make Zelensky good, but propaganda frames it that way. In Russia, not supporting Putin means you're seen as anti-Russian or a Western agent. In Ukraine, not backing Zelensky means you're called a Kremlin agent. That's just how things are. That's the Goebbels playbook.
I see. It's just that I watched a statement today or yesterday, I don't remember. We have a business ombudsman, and he said that, as they say, those who were killed in the war and those who left, will replace them with some people, either foreigners or maybe people from Bangladesh. We'll bring someone here and so on. But this is a nightmare. What kind of bastard is saying this sitting there, or rather standing?
I just want to, but I can't find the words.
Well, of course, we won't say any bad words.
Those are the only words I can, so to speak, relate to you in, a voice like the Canadian diaspora, like in Ukrainian with the Canadian accent. I'll tell you, can you imagine what to say? They're killing Ukrainians and you have to come. We'll bring those who will be comfortable in Ukraine. They will live in Ukraine instead of the Ukrainians who will be killed in the war that is going on right now for nothing.
Some say this. What's your take? So if, let's say, roughly speaking, you or me, we have some views, some attitude, and honestly, most people, there's a certain percentage, so to speak, of those who agree to everything, but still, of course, nobody likes these restrictions. Sorry, we're not in the Soviet Union. We all remember, no matter how we felt about Petro Alexeyevich, there was freedom of speech and everything else during his time. Of course, there were some bad things, but at the same time, there was much more freedom. We all remember that. So if you and I are either evicted or sent to war, that means you and I won't be here. Me, you, and other people who have certain views. So it turns out, instead of us, they'll bring in some people we don't even know, who don't care at all about Ukraine, Ukrainians, or Russia. It's the same as if you and I went to Bangladesh and Bangladesh had a conflict with India. Do you understand what I mean?
They are outside the political context. They won't have any social influence on India.
So they'll be told there, keep silent. They'll just put, like, we'll go to India for some mathroper or someone. I don't know who they have there.
Yes.
A good person, yes, we agree. We bowed and then went on thinking about our own things. So they basically want us out of Ukraine, as I see it.
I believe that's outlined in the United States Agency for International Development and Soros plans. That's all. That was their far-sighted strategy. And in the end, Ukraine is this buffer where, as they say, this bastard lives. Milovanov, if you've heard 10 to 15 million, who are these 10 to 15 million? Half are pensioners who will be constantly dying out. Very, very few children. Some serve the system while others can't leave, physically or mentally. There are always people like that. That's it.
There won't be a creative class?
People will go to Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Slovenia, or other nearby countries to start even small businesses like a coffee shop, but not to Ukraine. Well, almost. As I said, some people will stay, but not on a large scale. That's it. The idea may be there won't be a political process, a buffer, not a country. You could call it one big trench.
But who will fight then? These people won't go to fight.
They'll pay a lot to anyone who agrees to fight.
Like they'll find someone there, mercenaries.
No, well, those who, you see, people who have already been through war, many of them, let's be honest, it's like this in every country. They won't be able to socialize. That's why, for example, I'm in favor of legalizing private military companies, really based on the American model. They will want that kind of life. It's not about whether I want it or not, it's just the truth. These people will get paid well because of subsidies. That's how things work.
So are they basically trying to evict all of us? Well, that's just what I've heard. Sort of create some kind of figurative Bangladesh there, so they would do something there. I don't mean to offend them, so to speak. Bring in people from some other countries, from India or wherever, I don't know. Just bring someone in and that's it. And we would have to leave. What's the global goal here? I don't get it.
I already said to make Ukraine a buffer. And the people who remain, they must definitely be radically nationalist minded. The idea is if you left, you're not Ukrainian anymore. If you live here and endure, the main thing is to endure. The national ideology is to endure. Born, endure, die. It's like Russians used to say about themselves when they still had sense. That's how it all happens.
In other words, it's sad to say the least.
Of course, it's sad. I'm strongly against this, but unfortunately, as you can see, it ends up in the media. And people react to it pretty calmly for the most part.
Well, yes, but that's what's sad. That, so to speak, they're putting this on us. On one hand, it's Russia, and on the other hand, it's all our internal figures. I'm not a military man, but the way they're conducting this war is a nightmare. Well, take, for example, Israel. Their ratio is even worse than ours with God, with the Russian Federation. All the countries around them, and everyone is actually against them. And yet they somehow survive there. They somehow protect their military. And here, if you end up in the army, well, unless you know someone and end up sitting in the rear eating pastries, it's a one-way ticket. We both understand that.
In Israel, this was established as the state's foundation in 1948 and continues to improve. But here, people have always been just statistics since ancient times.
Well, yes, that's what they say. I sometimes say it too, that we feel like one people with Russia. It's all the same. It all comes down to the same thing. All right, let's not talk about sad things. I wanted to ask what you think in general. I know you and Gennady Balashov, among others, suggest it often. By the way, I'll also say, I told the viewers, and I'll repeat it, both times Gennady Balashov ran, I voted for him in those presidential elections. I actually support him. Honestly, I want to tell people, the point isn't whether you like Gennady or not, whether he's eccentric or maybe an interesting person in many ways and so on. But I'm actually supporting the idea itself. At least give us some kind of chance, roughly speaking. If we could have chosen Balashov back then, maybe we would have had at least some chance to change something. But instead, we're just swapping one bad thing for another, like those. One moment we're heading towards Russia, then we're supposedly heading towards the European Union, and we didn't end up going either way, and it all ended in a terrible war. So do you think it's possible to change anything in the economy at all, so that here in Ukraine, at least things aren't, as bad for people as you mentioned?
It's possible, and not just mildly, but radically and successfully. Total privatization, reduction of the state apparatus, reduction of government spending, a neoliberal tax reform, judicial reform, creating a capital market, a stock market, and prohibiting special services from interfering in the economy. A total reduction of bureaucracy. So all of this will lead to success. Everyone knows these recipes, including Poroshenko and Zelensky, but they don't implement them. But you said a great thing when you talked about voting for Balashov. Do you think when Argentina elected Milei, 57% were libertarians? Most of them don't even know what libertarianism is. Rest assured, these are just people tired of living like this and of choosing between two bad options. We may not fully understand Milei or the ideology, but it sounds good. It inspires us to live in our own country, and that's something new. If we're going to make mistakes, then let's make them with a new person and draw some conclusions, or we'll end up completely disappointed. But just banging your head against the wall, it's always the same. Petya, Zelia, Yulia, it's just... And then to say that we're a wise nation, as people like to claim. Where's the wisdom? We must admit we lack wisdom as a nation. Let's change that.
Because, as it turns out, I see that those who, as they say, were in the Verkhovna Rada, or around it, so to speak, all want to be in power again. And what will change? Well, if Zelensky is gone, there will just be someone else.
They are just changing faces, not the system. They don't change the system.
Yes, so nothing will change. Elect Yulia, she's nice, as people say in the comments, but being nice isn't a profession. She'll just stay a nice woman. Or elect Petro Alexeyevich again, so he can walk around and shout some nonsense.
And he dreams about it. He dreams about it.
Yes.
Of course. And he is confident. You know, Zelensky is confident that he has the ratings and that he is the president without question. And Poroshenko thinks the same about himself.
He acts oddly, claiming to be the president. Do we have two presidents now? I don't understand. Some kind of president.
Phase shift, phase shift. These professional politicians spend their lives fighting for power.
That's a good question. I've actually thought about it for a while and really liked it. Others mention it too. Is a president necessary in Ukraine? Honestly, I don't think we need it anymore. These presidents have caused too many problems. Maybe we don't need it at all. Let's do it like in Hungary, for example. Let there be a prime minister.
A lot of people are expressing their opinions now. You're talking about a parliamentary republic, right?
Yeah, let it be like that.
Look, the advantage is that really there will never be a dictator in such a system. But there's one big drawback, especially in the case of Ukraine. If only, at least of an average level, probably, yeah. No parliamentary country, including Ukraine, has enacted radical reforms that turned a struggling nation into a success. That is, they will always be held back. Parliament is good and a part of democracy, but the crowd can tear apart its benefits. Things will move forward, but we're limiting ourselves from the start. We can develop, but only so much. In my view, we can't hope to reach Poland's level. We'll see how it turns out.
I see. It's interesting, of course. Well, do you also think it's just that simple? In my work, I've come across this a lot, and it always surprised me that, so to speak, we have so many law enforcement organizations, and for the most part, they duplicate each other's functions. And maybe there are even more of them now. They've created some new ones, and now there are also some organizations connected to the military, some kind of military police, not really police. There was nothing like that before. I never had anything to do with them, but now they've appeared. So, like, if you took all of them and disbanded them, leaving just one, I think they just physically wouldn't have enough time. There, they would be dealing with big business, maybe visiting some enterprises, doing inspections or something else. If you at least reduce their numbers, they just physically wouldn't have the opportunity to go around, to kiosks and so on, to markets, collecting money.
As I already said, you can't set such simple tasks because compromise options don't work. No, just a clear ban on intelligence agencies engaging in economic activity. You simply can't do it. That's what the tax authorities are for. That's it, period. And if, let's cut them down so there are too few and they can't keep up, it'll still end up with there being a lot of them.
Today I was recording a video for my second channel, and there the military prosecutor's office opened a case and is investigating fraud. What does the military prosecutor's office have to do with fraud?
Yeah, Taras, there's nothing to say about Ukraine even without what you're mentioning. Here they can fabricate a case over a post, make a fake expert review and ruin a person's life. Or consider what happened to Balashov. Even if he was eccentric and maybe said too much, who hasn't? He spent his life earning money. Then they sanctioned him and took his property. How is that possible?
Yes, I agree. It's terrible. Tell me, friends, if you have any questions, or so to speak, I've run out of questions for Dennis. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. Dennis, do you see the questions?
Yes, well, I see the chat.
Maybe there's something you like or don't like, something like that.
Let people write.
If you have questions for Dennis, feel free to write them and we'll read and discuss them. I promised and don't want to deceive anyone to say that it didn't work out.
See, they're writing. It went by quickly. I wanted to read it. Was life really bad for us with Russia before the war? That's a terrible mentality.
Yeah, we lived well. Why the hell did they attack us? Someone explain that to me. What happened in 2014 that made someone, who snap? He chose to take everything for himself, imagining he was Vladimir the Great or whoever he wanted. I don't know.
Yes.
Everything was fine. So here's my question. Will they be displayed here? Do you see if they're being displayed?
Yes, I see.
What are your thoughts on Trakhanov in this situation?
They apparently gave him a Russian passport, but he's definitely not my hero. I'm against lawlessness, against everyone. But Trakhanov is not my hero, just like all the other mayors in Ukraine.
Well, I think he had a passport at some point,
He did at some point. The last published one they're attaching to the case. He had it, of course.
He had a passport.
I admit he's a Russian special services officer, I'm sure.
So what do you think? This is all local self-government? These thieving crooks are the same, just at the local level, while those are higher up.
Absolutely everything. It's all about tenders.
That's why, excuse me, they stay silent. No one says anything. He tried to hold on until the very end. I see about Zelensky, he says, oh, that's a good king, that kind of nonsense.
Of course, and they're all like that.
The boyos are bad.
They attack Klitschko, but he conducts rather passive political activity and doesn't attack head-on. That's exactly why.
So you think that all of them, how to put it simply, have something to hide. Let's put it that way.
Of course, politically, there's nothing to discuss. They're the same.
They're asking who will vote for in the elections.
There are no elections and the candidates are unknown. Discussing it is pointless.
Well, yeah, because if we start discussing this party of war now, so to speak, and honestly,
People are in for surprises. They expect to choose Petya, Vova, and many other candidates.
I have a feeling that they're putting forward either some military people or, let's say, what do you call them? Some kind of paramilitary types, or just Zelensky and Poroshenko, and that's it. So basically, the party of war.
I don't use the term party of war, but I know it's popular. Yes, it will try to dominate.
So what should we call them?
Well, it's just kind of an immediate division, like the war party and the peace party. That's why I'm cautious. I don't mind it, but I'm just careful. Overall, I understand.
I'm not sure. The military and those who use that rhetoric, Poroshenko, for example, has some interesting rhetoric. He reminds me of the Russian opposition shouting even louder. Like they say, we're not bombing enough, like they shout in Russia, right?
Poroshenko, Zelensky, Zaluzhny, they're actually all about the same thing. It's just that some are a bit more moderate than the others. That's all.
All right. Are there any questions that interest you?
Yeah, I'm looking, but it's mostly just comments. People are outraged and sharing opinions, so questions.
They're writing, people are posting there. But honestly, I don't really see any actual questions.
Ask people, go ahead and ask.
Let's wait 30 more seconds. Maybe something unexpected will come up. Taras, do you feel the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center? I do. Dennis is too, I think.
Why did you decide Bangladesh citizens are harmless? Maybe it's and something else. You probably said harmless, right? People responded.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I said anything like that.
There's no point discussing this. We have nothing against the citizens of Bangladesh and aren't racists.
We have nothing against anyone, including black or Chinese people. That's just how it is.
So to raise the question, instead of bringing all Ukrainians back and making sure they live comfortably and well at home, either to the grave or into emigration, and we'll bring someone else in here.
Bring some of those people here from somewhere else. Maybe they're good guys 30 times over. I'm not against it. They're writing that, Denise, you're super. By the way, speaking of super, let me turn it on now. Where is it here? First of all, in the description, there will be Dennis's channel. And also there's a QR code here, a link. Go ahead, friends. Make sure to subscribe. Dennis, you do these streams often, right? I watch them, so to speak.
Yeah, streams. Well, yeah, streams are the main thing because there's no time to do all the editing and all that. I don't make content as often now. Mostly I focus on streams.
Do you stream often?
I try to do it once or twice a week.
Is it on a specific day or at a certain time, or?
Friday is my main stream. Everything else depends on the situation.
You collect the news, if I remember correctly?
People send me some main topics that I want to discuss, plus what others send me. I rarely pick something myself.
People write that you're great, awesome, everyone supports you and everything is good, so.
I'm calm.
Let's probably finish here on such an optimistic note, so to speak. Friends, thank you very much for joining and spending your time. I hope it wasn't too awkward, so to speak. And thank you very much to Dennis for also finding the time. Again, his channel link is in the description. Check it out and subscribe. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Taras.